So there's one more explanation I have in the short term. Now, it's bizarre for a Marylander when people don't get what DC means to Maryland. It's, at least for me before the Ravens came in town, where my home team was. I mean, I backed up some out-of-state team that I liked because I didn't have a team. I like the Steelers. I knew they were pretty close by, but, ultimately, after the Colts betrayed us, we really just, we knew DC was our hometown. Uh, got Annapolis as our capital, Baltimore is our big city, but DC is right there. It has our football team. It's where I first moved out of having a roommate, realizing I wasn't getting back into college. Moving away from my family, even though I was living even closer where my father spends most of his time, the USDA. It's where I learned how to hop around the underground, which again, DC doesn't stay open all night, so you gotta know which bars to knock on the doors right. And past their curfew, which I'm pretty sure is later than 2 actually. As best I can remember, everything gets jumbled up after it's been so long. Where to do your thing, but you can party 24/7 in DC. You can find pot anywhere you want in DC. It's been like this for quite some time now. Most of the time you can bum a couple blunt smokes off a guy at the bus stop in DC. It's just like California. It's pretty nice. Before Colorado started celebrating 420, Bush was even inviting potheads out to the mall. That was our first indication. Wait a second. I think we know what this guy's up to, guys. That's when we started seeing the humor in his rhetoric. But anyways, it's really my hometown. It's the only place I ever spent money on to live by myself. And adapt to a world where I wasn't really looking like I was going to be able to get back into college immediately. And I dumped a wedding business to start a marketing business, which relevantly could have managed smaller or bigger but sparser contracts to eventually deal with. But before I knew it, I was staying in the Twin Towers, breaking up with a sort of naive young woman to find out my dorky Jewish neighbor was a part of a videographer crew at the World Trade Center, and I nearly got a job managing there. Meanwhile, I was trying to start my own independent label with Discovery, which I was right across the street from. And it was a whole world opening up to me, but I couldn't manage it because I wasn't allowed to smoke pot. Instead of smoking pot, I kept getting drunk. I kept stressing about how I was going to manage a circumstance which didn't seem manageable. And I don't know, back into a weird spot, but I might have only spent 3-4 months being in Maryland, which in Silver Spring is essentially a part of the major metropolitan DC region. It is what it is. Now, I can't afford to live there anymore, but what I can afford to make a living is in a small DC beach, which happens to also be in Maryland because all the areas surrounding the boundaries of DC are people who are part of the DC life. People are a little snooty because there's a lot of well-to-do people there, not salary-wise, but in terms of what they do. And you can manage if you're doing something kind of cool. and making a decent enough salary to live. But, y'all kept telling me, go home, go home, go home, go home. You're in the movie Inception. That means LA. No. I'm Matthew Jason Baker, bitch. DC is my home. Sorry. I was just trying to follow your directions.